Are we here? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Saved. Space, you're a hero. Thank you so much. Danny, Femto, Flick, Dan, Shrimp, Nikki, Taurus, Pigeon, Alexis Tortilla, Limno, Bird, Ralph, Roxers, Dan, Afton, Aloka, London, Beef, Roach, CDDC, Musels, Jen. Hello, 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 everyone. We are here for our weekly bug hunt, our weekly rations of six-legged friends, here on the Alveus Sanctuary channel. Slightly delayed because stream was being weird, but we're here now. That's CD, got it. Hi, Mom. I posted the shirt in the Discord. I wasn't able to do the sharing thing here, but I put in the Discord, so anyone that wants to go see that, exclamation point bug cord. We have a Alveus centered insect Discord, so if you're there, have questions throughout the week, we can take them in there instead of waiting until the following Wednesday to chat about whatever's going on. So how are y'all doing? Any fun bugs that you've seen this week, or any fun bug encounters? I have a disappointing story to tell you all. Oh, better that it's working. I feel you. I feel you, Roach. Lots of spiders. Oh, sorry, Courtney. But hello. Thanks for being here. Big blue dragonfly ground beetles. Excellent. It's not that bad. You guys are... you guys definitely don't need to be that sad about it. It's really not that serious of a question. Stung by yellow jacket. That's a bummer. Dragonfly wing is pretty neat. Cicadas are cool. Drippo, what's up? Random firefly is a sick find. That's excellent. Christmas beetle time in Australia. That's true. Two-stripe walking sticks. Cicadas, new bug. Bigeminate sigil lady beetle. That sounds neat. I have to look that one up. Emery. Oh, we got a rat. We got a rat friend. Oh, that's cool. Hyperaspis bigeminata. That's pretty sick. That was a big rat. Hi, Sam. Big praying mantis? You guys had a lot of good bug luck this week. You guys had a lot of good bug luck this week. Jen, no, they're not. The question for all you audio-only enjoyers was, are all praying mantises in the U.S. green? No, the most common ones definitely are, like your big Chinese mantis and all of your, like Carolina mantis and things like that are going to be green for the most part, but then you have things like, Thesprodia grasminis, which is the slender grass mantis, which is brown. There's also the Florida bark mantis that is mottled kind of green and brown and mixed colors, and it really depends on the individual, but they are like perfectly good to blend into the tree, like the pine trees down here in Florida. Brown and green European mantises. Beeger, hello, hello. Posh. Big horsefly. I had a huge one this weekend too. Damn. Tortilla, that was a phenomenal grab. But yeah, this is the Thesperdia is the little tiny grass-like mantis. Graminous means of grass, so little tiny guy that tends to blend into grass-like surroundings. 2 old world tarantulas, very, very cool. Your request on Nextdoor, that's sick. So we've come back to our friend here again in the plants. This one, it's not a grasshopper. So this is, well, before I'm wrong again. Huh? It might be the thing that I misidentified last week. Or it could be Katie. Katie did. I'm not sure on this one. Oh well. Well, if we can't get it, that's fine. So last week we were talking about that one cricket that was on the tree in the wolf enclosure, and I will admit I was wrong. I took a look back at the VOD after we were done, and I found out that it wasn't a katydid like I had thought, or it wasn't a tree cricket like I had thought. Instead, it was a cool new find for chats. I don't think we had actually found one before. It was a scaly cricket, which is the family Mogoplistidae, which is still a type of cricket. It was close. It wasn't like I was identifying a beetle as a grasshopper. But scaly crickets don't have the spines on the hind legs that regular crickets do. But we could tell that when we were looking at it, it wasn't a katydid because it had those 2 long cerci, or those like feelers on the back of the abdomen. And as far as I know, we hadn't seen scaly crickets on the cams before, so that's always exciting when we get a new bug unlocked. But along the lines of Evan being incorrect, my disappointing story is that a group of us from my work, we go out to trivia on Tuesday nights. This started right when I got back from Arizona. I wanted to revive the tradition, so I've been kind of the ringleader of going to trivia. And we do pretty well. You know, a lot of pretty highly educated entomologists that have a broad knowledge of many things. And one of the categories this week was color name origins. And so I see some of you laughing. You came in for my stream, don't ruin it. But they asked us a couple of different questions, but the one that we got wrong that was very disappointing was this species of insect, Kermes vermilio. So I posted the name there in the chat. Is an insect that has given us the name for 2 different shades of red. Vermilion, as you can get from, vermilio here at the back. But what other word for the color red came from this scale insect? They didn't say it was a scale insect. We had to guess that. From Kermes vermilio. And I regret to inform you all that the team of 8 entomologists got this question wrong. We we severely overthought it. Okay, you guys got it wrong too. Jen, musels, nuclei. Yes. So we also thought it was carmine. Carmine is a different insect. The carmine dye comes from the genus Dactylopius, and it's that white fuzzy stuff that's on cactus. We knew this wasn't Dactylopius because they gave us the actual genus. But carmine, we were like, okay, maybe it came from this, and then the color like carried over, and then they started harvesting it from this other bug, and that's how we got carmine dye. For those of you that might not be familiar with that, it's something we've definitely talked about on here before. But if you ever see carmine or carmic acid in a food product, Jelly Belly jelly beans, almost any red tinted yogurt. There was a big hubbub with Starbucks drinks about it a couple of years ago. And that's because carmine comes from an insect. It is a little scale insect that produces this big white fuzz, feeds on cactus pads, and when you harvest it and dry the insects out... Oh, we got a dancer, chat. When you dry it out and grind them up, you can dye things with carmine. And so a lot of those food products, and especially around Halloween, I like to bring this out for my entomology classes of like finding foods that have carmine in it, because that red dye comes from insects. And the big hubbub a couple of years ago is what the big hubbub with Starbucks was that they were saying that their, I don't know, pink dragon fruit refresher or something like that was vegan. But the color was coming from carmine, so that was a bug product, and so there was a big debate about that. Strawberry frap, whatever it was. Yeah, tortilla. And so, yeah, that's what carmine is, and that's what we thought, too. So we thought Kermes turned to carmine, and then that somehow just got, like, applied to the other bug. Turns out, the answer is crimson. Crimson is, in fact, the other color that comes from Kermes vermilio. And we got that wrong. It was embarrassing, and we still placed second. We still got second, and thankfully, we were behind by more than one question. So that would not have been the deciding factor. We would have felt a lot worse, I think, had we lost by like 1 point. But we didn't. We were a couple of questions behind, and that's okay. It was fun watching this little inchworm go. I want him to like do the thing. He's reaching out right now. I don't know what he's like kind of trying to figure out, but what's happening is that the front part that's kind of dancing around right now, that's where the head is, and that's where the actual legs are. But then the back piece that's grabbing onto the grass at the base, those are... Oh, pause champ. Is he gonna do it? Yeah! 1 inch. He did it. Come on, do it again. Do it again. I hope he inches. God, it'd be so cool if we got it just to go like right across the screen. But the back pieces, the back set of legs are not actually legs. If it were, this would be an insect with more than 6 legs, and that's just not how that works. Goth, hello. Welcome in. Welcome to Bug Hunt. And so these caterpillars and a couple of other insects will have what we call prolegs, which are fastback. Very good. Yes. They are essentially like hydraulics, where they will pump extra hemolymph or extra blood or insect blood equivalent into these like jelly sacks, and will make them stiffen up to be able to grab onto things back there. And so when they walk, they will. It's gonna do it. It's kind of doing it. We're kind of seeing it. It holds on to things with this like hydrostatic pressure, and then it's able to release them and keep going. There are sawfly larvae, which is a type of hymenopteran for all of you Pokemon fans. It's what Weedle is based off of. They also have prolegs, but something that they lack that butterfly caterpillars will have are called crochets, which are like little tiny Velcro hooks that are on the outside of the proleg that help them grab onto surfaces better. So sawfly larvae look very similar to caterpillars, and especially very similar to these inchworms that have this kind of gap between the prolegs and the rest of the body. But if you get them under a microscope, you can see that they have these. They're missing the little hooks. So that's one way that you can separate sawfly larvae from caterpillars. Wavy black inflatable inchworm. I like that. Yeah, Kit Cinnamon. So no, spiders aren't insects. Insects are they have three body segments: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. They also have three pairs of legs, so they have 6 legs in total, and they also have one pair of antennae. Those are all of the characteristics of an insect. Spiders are arachnids, which means that they only have 2 body segments. They will have 8 legs, and they will have 0 antenna. So arachnids are the group that include things like scorpions and spiders, ticks, mites, harvestmen. All of those things are arachnids. And the harvestmen and the mites will often look like they only have one segmented body than they do than like 2. But in arachnids, the head and the thorax are fused together into a structure called very creatively, the cephalothorax. Cephalo meaning head, and thorax being thorax. So it's all fused together up there, and then with the harvestmen and the mites, that fusion just kind of goes a little bit further. And it kind of looks like one section, but in fact, it is not. Roach, I don't mean to. Yeah, shrimp is bugs. Shrimp is definitely bugs. So that's based on vibes of like they give off similar vibes, but also evolutionarily the actual thing is that bugs is shrimp. It's the other way. The overarching group, like the bigger group that contains crabs and centipedes and spiders and like ostracods, like brine shrimp and stuff like that, and also includes insects, is called pancrustacea. And so the relatives evolutionarily of insects are crustaceans. And so shrimp is bugs, sure, but more accurately, bugs is shrimp. So that is in fact true and real. Lobsters and shrimp are big bugs. Yeah, sort of. evolutionarily they are. It's the same way that like evolutionarily everything is a fish. Um, but yeah, shrimp is bugs. That is definitely not a controversial statement around these parts. I fully support. We do have a cool moth going crazy here. See if he'll trying to juke the cameras. He probably isn't gonna stop. We get lucky sometimes. We've had a couple of times where we'll actually stop and slow down, but I don't know that tonight's that night. Want to see him off. Well, hopefully, one of these days. Been talking to Daniel about getting the bug light setup going, and the idea with that is that we would be able to trigger it remotely, and be able to like actually look at the bug sheet like we do with the live bug hunts, like when I'm with Maya in person, and we'll be able to see some of that stuff on the cams here, and we'll be able to zoom in on all those goodies. So we're still waiting on that, but it is definitely in the works. Emery, that's so funny. I'm glad you got them. Those Ento clip lights are excellent. I highly recommend them, and I think I've actually driven like quite a bit of traffic to them. I know I mentioned it. I mentioned those lights during the one chat that I did when I was back in Arizona for the Beetle course, and the guy who makes the lights is also one of the instructors of that class with me. And I mentioned it on stream, and then like the next day there were like 4 orders that came in, and so like we've been joking about an affiliate code, but I think that would actually be really sick if I could get that set up. I should ask him, because I do think there has been quite a bit of traffic coming like from this big platform of talking about these bug lights on a stream with all these people. I don't necessarily need a kickback or anything. I would just like a discount or like a light for myself, because I've bought. I have 3 of the big ones. I have 2 of the USB small ones, and then I have 4 of the trap lights, which I was just talking about on my stream on the chats. Over on my Twitch channel, I do about 2 hours of stream before we hop into here, and there are these new ones that they make that are called the trap lights that are USB powered, and you can power them off of like a cell phone battery bank. And they have the like a single strip of LED lights, and the idea is that you can buy multiples of them and put them in traps and leave a bunch of these different lights set out without having to have this really big one with a really big power supply. Oh, this is your first bug hunt, Emery. Well, welcome in. Thanks for making it. Glad you're here. Fellow bug enjoyers, rise up. Bug propaganda, yes, that is the entirety of my existence, is just trying to get people excited about them. Company that sold the whole kits with the sheet and frame and everything. The sheet was a grid so you could easily measure. I think that was Bug Dorm that used to have that, but EntoQuip, the same company where the lights came from, they just made a new thing called an Entoceptor, which I haven't bought yet because it is kind of expensive, and I have my own frame set up, but it's like a pop together frame that like sets up super quick, and we used it at the Beetle courses in Arizona, and they were great. I just can't justify one. because I have my own setup already, but they are very, very nice. That's a good sheet to have to set that stuff up. But if you're talking about the one that went out of business, that was BioQuip, which was a very, very sad loss for the entomology community. Night, Quokka. Thanks for hanging out. But there are companies that have... I think we've talked about this before, and I know you said this was your first one, so this is not... I don't mind repeating it at all, because there's always new people coming in and out. BioQuip went out of business because the family just didn't find anyone that was able to take over for them. It wasn't like it was failing or anything. They were like the place to buy stuff from. And there are now companies that have been coming out in the past like 5 or 6 years since BioQuip went away that are filling these roles and starting to develop these products and figuring out like how to source the materials to make aspirators and the like woodworking machines to make drawers and net handles and stuff like that. So it's not a one-stop shop like it used to be. Now certain places have certain things because they've placed their priorities on like developing nets versus drawers versus pins versus whatever. And so it's not all in one place anymore, but they are starting to replace, which is really, really nice. That some of those supplies that we've been waiting for and like have been trying to find for years now are finally starting to come back. I just placed a big order. Part of my job at work is like maintaining supplies, and we were looking at buying pins, to actually prepare the insect specimens. And I went and checked how many pins we had in the building, and the answer was 237,000. However, a lot of those were sizes that generally don't get used. So the 000s are like the super, super low, the very, very thin pins. And then 7s are the only ones that are actually longer than any of the others. Everything else is just a thickness change. And so the ones that you use the most are 2s and 3s. Those are like your bread and butter everyday use pins. And so we had like 50 some thousand 2s, but we only had 3,000 3s left. And I was like, oh, we can't have that. 3,000 is basically 0. So I ordered 15,000 more. So now we've got 18,000 3s, which is much more comfortable number. I didn't count them singly. I think that would have been a crazy task. Insect pins come in packs of 100, and then there are 10 packs in a box. So if you buy a box of insect pins, there's 1,000 of them. But then if you buy essentially like a case of insect pins, it is 10 boxes. So 10 boxes, each with 10 packs of 100. So a shipping box or like a case is 10,000 pins. So I was able to go through and count like our sealed boxes, and then the boxes that were open, how many packs were in each one. I didn't open... Excuse me. Sleepy. I didn't open the open packs and like count how many pins were in each one. I just count, we didn't count those. So we just did the boxes and the packs and everything. And so that's how I found out that number that we had. But we're at a comfortable place with the 3s now, but I would still like to have more because we're looking to get someone in to prep material for us. And if they do a lot of pointing, so not when you put the pin directly through the insect, but if it's very small, you can glue the insect to a little piece of paper, and then you put the pin through the paper. And typically the ones that we use to point things are size 3 pins. And so if we have someone come in prepping material for us and they need 3s, 3,000 pins goes a lot quicker than you would think. So we're all supplied back up now. I'm sorry if I'm boring you with the details of my job with bug stuff, but that is like the reality of maintaining a big collection like the one that I work at. So ooh, Bijou, that's a good question. So last year with my Thailand trip and everything and all of the other material that I had, last year was a high year because I had that trip out of the country. I went through 4,000 pins last year. So lifetime definitely over 10,000. Um I would say probably between like 10 and 20,000 total. And that's just for like specimens that I've actually prepped. I don't have that many that I have kept. There have been a lot of times where I've been prepping specimens for research projects or for donations to museums and stuff like that. So, oh, there is a frog on a rock right below us. Look down, chat. I don't know if the camera goes any lower, which is why we're stuck here, but right in the middle of the bottom, there's a frog on a rock. Yeah, so I would say between like 10 and 20,000 pins all time, like in specimens. But then I have all of these extra pins that are used for like arranging the legs and the antennae and everything like that on specimens while they're drying. And we call those setting pins. And I probably have another like several thousand of those. And those tend to come from either specimens that have deteriorated or weren't worth saving. And usually that comes from student collections, unfortunately. So we do still have student collections making things, but the data is not good. They're not always prepared the best way. So it would take up space and resources in the actual collection. And so sometimes when we do that and we have specimens that are just like not up to par, we will strip them off the pin. But you don't want to ever put a pin that was used in another insect into another specimen, because there can be different reactions between the metal and the coating and the guts and stuff on the inside that were on the pin. So you never reuse pins into other specimens, but you do keep them aside for setting pins. And like we were talking about earlier with the sizes of the pins, generally, I don't use pins unless I am confident in which size they are. And at this point, after having used so many, I can tell just by thickness and like how they feel. Excuse me. If it's a 2 or a 3, or smaller or bigger or anything like that. But if you don't know, generally I will pull those pins aside as well and use them for setting pins. Nice spider here. Crab, maybe? Crawl up here a bit for us. Come on. Oh, did it stop? Oh. Crabs and spiders. Not quite what I meant, chat. Not quite what I meant. I think it's a crab spider, which is the family Tomicidae. And part of No, it's not. It's not a crab. I lied. Roach, they don't. Crabs have 10 legs. Oh gosh, I'm so glad. I haven't been on stream as much to catch them in action and seeing them on stream, but I do check all of the VODs of the collabs to see how the other streamers deal with them. And I think it has been good. Positive bug propaganda. Maya's real good at it, and I try to help as well. But this is not a crab spider. The abdomen is too... it's too domed. Crab spiders are usually pretty flattened in the back of the abdomen, and the proportions of the legs are wrong. In crab spiders, the 2 sets of front legs are extremely long, and they usually go out to the side, so they kind of tend to move more sideways than they do straight forward. And crab spiders have those because they will generally sit on plants and wait for prey items to come by. That could be flies, those could be butterflies, those could be bees or wasps or whatever. But they have these really long front arms that they're able to grab prey and bring it in to bite it. I'm not sure who this is. I'm not sure which spider this is, but it's not a crab spider. It's moving too fast, and just the proportions don't seem right. So we're gonna leave this as a question mark. I'm not sure who this is, but neat find. Loving your mint. Yeah, any sort of flowers. They're really big on asters. And the other cool thing about crab spiders is that they will sort of color match to their background. So if you put a crab spider that is typically white on like a yellow plant, if it's able to molt a couple of times while it lives on that plant, it will actually start turning yellow. And they can also be pink. They can also be slightly purple. They can be somewhat mixed. It's not like an instant change like chameleons. It's not that sort of coloration, but it is a long-term thing that, like, okay, I'm posted up on this plant. I'm going to be yellow. But it takes a while. And if it's an adult spider, like if it's a white spider on a yellow flower, and somebody comes along and picks that flower, that spider won't be able to change colors again as an adult, because it takes a couple of molts to get to that point. Courtney, yeah, an exam on Friday already is crazy. But if it's bug class is fun. Giant spiny stick insects. Do you mean in terms of color changing, Tortilla? Because, yeah, some of those stick insects can also have color variations. Okay, yeah, lichen color to green or brown. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Anyone else have any burning bug questions that they've been saving for the week? Logan's doing a kick-ass job on cams, so we're still finding stuff all the time. It's getting close to time, but since we started late, if it's okay with Logan, I can go a couple minutes past 10. or a couple minutes past the hour or whatever. Bug class alien dance, hell yeah. The hemolymph and inchworms. I don't know. Hemoglobin, which is what is in our blood, but also in the blood of like 3 different groups of insects, is red. Hemocyanin is what is in the blood of horseshoe crabs, and their blood is blue. I don't know what color just general insect hemolymph is. Because typically, when, and this is kind of morbid, is when it comes out, it's mixed with other stuff that you have squished out of the bug. But I guess I'm thinking back to like tarantulas that I've seen that have had hemolymph leaks, and it's been pretty clear. But I actually don't know. I'll get back to you on that one, Jen. If you're in the Discord, I'll post it in the recap for this week. Good bug ID apps. That's a tough one, Limno. Because insects are so speciose, a lot of those apps are overconfident. And a lot of them are also not trained on the best photos. So iNaturalist, I think, is probably going to be your best bet. And rather than just taking whatever the like the auto detection suggests, post it maybe at like the family level, or if you know it's a beetle but you're not sure what kind, post it at beetles. And then some of the human experts, like the people that browse iNaturalist, will be able to go on and identify it for you. There are only 11,000 species of bird worldwide, but there are over 400,000 described species of beetles alone. So the magnitude of like having to be like an app that could do all of them is nearly impossible. So iNaturalist, I think, would probably be the best bet, but it is still not my favorite for a lot of things, especially the really tiny stuff or the stuff that looks very similar to other species, because it trains the detection of like what to suggest based on the photos that have already been suggested and identified. And so if it's trained on like the monarch butterfly, but then there's a species that looks very close to a monarch that hasn't been observed nearly as much, it would still be more likely to suggest you the wrong identification then, just because it didn't know like what the other thing was. So bug apps are hard. It is like a blind spot. A lot of people would love one, but just there's a lot of complexity there that would make it tough. So I would say try iNaturalist if you haven't already. It's an okay source, but it's definitely not optimized as well as like the Cornell apps are for birds. Uh, Emery, yes, we have at some point. This is your first one, but there is a playlist of all of the bug hunts backlogged on the Alveus Highlights channel. So if you want to go back and if you're bored and you just want to listen to us yap for a long time, there's several dozen past bug hunts back there. But yeah, spotted lanternflies, we've definitely talked about them before. I'm from like 30 minutes away from where they were first detected in the US. And so I've collected them a lot when I've been home for the summers and everything like that. What specifically about spotted lanternflies did you want to ask? Oh, people are saying Seek. People are saying Seek. I've never really used Seek, but that's powered by iNaturalist, so I think it would be very similar in terms of accuracy. Why are spotted lanternflies such a huge deal, but Joro spiders are not? Spotted lanternflies pose a threat to agriculture, yes. So that is the entire reason. Joro spiders are predatory, and we don't actually know if they're having like negative consequences on the insects in the area because they coexist with the native Trichonephila species. And so they're probably displacing the golden silk orb weavers in some way, but nobody's really figured it out yet. But they're predatory is what it comes down to, is that they're not going to be feeding on anything that feeds us. But spotted lanternfly feeds on a ton of different crops and a ton of different like fruit trees, which are massive industries in the regions where they're from. So that's why spotted lanternfly is such a big deal, is because it's not confined to like one plant. It feeds on a wide variety of things, and a lot of those things that it feeds on are economically important because they really like grapes, they really like apple. So all of those things can get pretty damaged with spotted lanternfly because when they feed, they're feeding on like the sweet sap of the tree, and as they poop, the sugar in that poop gets moldy, and so the trees and the fruit and stuff get covered with mold, and that's why that's why spotted lanternfly is bad. Y'all are saying a lot of things. I have to catch up, so we'll speed through. Professor said that beetles aren't bugs. Do I agree with this? If I'm being pedantic, yes. So beetles are their own order, and bug is a colloquial term that people use for insects or just kind of creepy crawlies in general. But true bugs, like the official thing that is a quote-unquote bug, is the order Hemiptera, so things like assassin bugs and cicadas and aphids. And so if you're talking technically, I agree with him, but I tell people that I work with bugs all the time, even though I work on beetles. So it doesn't bother me if people say that, and if I'm going to make the distinction, I will say true bugs versus just bugs. Sorry, I'm catching up here, guys. Trashy Leftist, thank you for the raid. Frog in the pond, frog in the water. Joro spiders, moldy poop. Hi, Bree. Welcome in. There it is. Okay, we're caught up now. Yes, Tortilla. Operation Squish on the lanternflies. But as I've said before with all of the Operation Squishes that we've talked about, you need to really be certain of what you're squishing. Spotted lanternflies, there's not much that you can really confuse them for, but other pests like Japanese beetle and emerald ash borer and things like that have a lot of lookalikes that are native. I think I've talked about this before, but when the whole murder hornet thing was going on, that was only up in the Pacific Northwest, so that was not a thing outside of like Washington. But there were some entomologists on the East Coast that kept tallies of all of their identification requests for that year. And they had like a 400% spike in stuff that got sent in. And the things that got sent in were large wasps like European hornets, which are also not native, but they've been here for a very, very long time. Bald-faced hornets, which are native, cicada killers, things like that. So there are the general public, and this is not a dig at chat, but because y'all are here learning, but the average person is not very good at telling bugs apart. That might not be a surprise. It might be a surprise. I don't know. but they got a huge influx of requests for things that generally were that shape, even though they were several thousand miles away from where murder hornets were. And anytime you see a bug headline anywhere of like, oh, newly found blah blah blah, the comments are filled with people like, that's not new, I've seen that in my backyard for years. And it's like, no, like, I promise you, you haven't. So it's tough. It's tough being on social media posting bug stuff because everyone thinks they know more than you. But anyway, just be aware of what you're squishing. If you do Operation Squish, if you're not sure, don't squish. Yeah, Emery, exactly. Gotta train. Y'all don't know about cicada killers? I see a couple of question marks around that. So, cicada killers are wasps that do the same thing that tarantula hawks do. So, maybe if we have to like go like 4 steps back here to 4 steps back to explain what I'm about to explain. Wasps, there are a lot of wasps that will sting other organisms to take them back to a burrow or a nest in order to feed the young. Cicada killers will catch and sting cicadas to paralyze them but not kill them. And it's the female doing this because she's doing it for her offspring. So female cicada killers actually have a unique like hook sort of structure on their back leg to help them drag the cicada better. They'll drag it back to a burrow, they'll take the cicada down, and because the cicada is paralyzed but not dead, all of its body functions maintain so it doesn't rot. And then that cicada killer wasp will lay an egg. The larvae will then feed on that cicada that's paralyzed, and then the wasp will, develop and emerge. And you see this a lot across wasps. The other big famous example are the tarantula hawk wasps. We've seen them at Alveus before, and it's like a pretty common one. People are at least generally aware of cicada killers, or of tarantula hawks. They do the same thing that cicada killers do, but instead of doing it with cicadas, they go and they sting tarantulas. There's a whole group that tarantula hawk family are just called spider wasps in general, and so they won't all go for tarantulas. They will go wolf spiders, jumping spiders, whatever. But there are plenty of wasps that will specifically feed on spiders. There are other things like thread-waisted wasps, the family Sphecidae, that will go and actually pluck orb weavers, sort of like the one we're trying to focus on right now, out of their webs to feed their young. There are ones that will do it with caterpillars, and so they'll provision and provide food for their baby. Cicada hit your window. The wasps that dog walk roaches. That is, in fact, the emerald jewel wasp tortilla. I think we'll wrap it up there talking about the emerald jewel wasp because this is another pretty neat. This is another pretty neat thing that's evolved in insects. So the emerald jewel wasp is bright metallic green. It's a very pretty wasp. And it does the same thing. It will provision its larvae with some sort of food item. In the case of the emerald jewel wasp, they are preserving and providing their larvae with cockroaches. And to get the cockroaches, she will, fly around, find one, sting it, and it will paralyze it. But it paralyzes just the very specific part of the brain that controls the legs. She still needs the legs to work because she's not a very strong flyer. So instead of flying with it like the cicada killers do, she goes the tarantula hawk route and just kind of drags the thing back to the hole. But she doesn't want it to be able to control its own legs, but she needs it to be able to walk still. So she stings it in such a precise location that she's able to do that. And then the next thing that she does is she takes her mandibles and she clips off the antennae. I don't really know why she clips off the antennae, but that's something that she does. She'll go and she'll bite the antennae off closer to the head. And now that she has I guess maybe it's probably because of sturdiness. So now that she's at the base that has this more sturdy piece of the antenna to guide it with, she will actually grab that little piece of antennae in her mandibles and walk backwards with it. And she basically walks this cockroach all the way back from wherever she stung it to wherever her hole is. And that's the reason why she didn't like just sting it and totally paralyze it, because as she drags it, the body of this paralyzed cockroach walks. It takes steps and walks itself back to where this wasp is trying to bury it. But it doesn't have, like, motor control over its own legs, but it still has the ability to walk. And that's how precise the sting of that wasp is like they go for that, like, that one nerve ganglia that controls that part of the body movement. So that's pretty sick. All of you freaking out about it and being it's like super crazy, definitely check out the Chat Chats library or the Chat Chats recap channel on the Bug Discord. This will certainly be something that we talk about. That is certainly something that I will cover in the recap for this week. And there's videos of it and everything like that, so you can see it firsthand. So it's pretty neat. Yes, join the bug court. Bree, I appreciate it. Emery, good night. Thank you for being here. And if you haven't already and you're interested, join the Bug Discord. We've got the Chat Chats channel in there. We hang out there during the week. This is my wrap up for the stream this evening as well, so we're gonna take off here in just a few minutes. Join the Bug Court if you have bug questions or fun bug sightings or anything like that throughout the week. Myself or any of the other very knowledgeable members will be able to identify your thing for you. There are suggestions for like future topics of Chat Chats, bug news, bug merch. I just posted Mom Tomology's new shirt in there that she had custom made, which is very sick and very cool. If you are not aware, I have also started personally streaming over on my Twitch channel. And thanks to this community, I got affiliate pretty quick. So we're doing streams generally Monday afternoons, but I am doing what I have been calling pre-chat chats. So for about 2 hours before we hit this, before we come on here and do the normal bug stream, I have been streaming over on my channel, going through and explaining basically why certain beetles are what they are. I would appreciate if you come hang out there. It's more in-depth bug content. I have a microscope that is hooked up to the stream, so you're able to zoom in and see what I'm looking at through the microscope and everything. So if that sounds fun to you, come on over there. Yeah. So thank you all for those of you that have been there already. It's been very, very fun. Thank you for all of you who are potentially going there right now. And in general, just thank you for being here for Chat Chats. as we said earlier, spreading positive bug propaganda and just kind of cool bug facts is what we're all about here. And just being here to take that stuff in is quite meaningful. So thank you all again. I shall see you back here, same time, same place next week, if not before, on one of my streams. I will talk to you all later. Good night.